Can you set intentions in uncertain times? Well, yes, I believe you absolutely can. And in fact, maybe when things are really bumpy and really uncertain is when you should be setting them. So settle in, because today you and I are just going to have a one-on-one chat about understanding your desired direction and why you shouldn't just be focused on a desired destination.
Welcome to the Leadership Coaching Group's podcast. I'm your host, Liz Howard, an entrepreneur, author, and executive leadership coach. This is where I introduce you to the top experts that discuss the burning topics that leaders at all levels need to know about. My goal is to help you become a leader that you are confident others will want to follow. So, subscribe to the show, listen in weekly, and watch your confidence as a leader grow.
Happy New Year, leaders! Thank you for being here with me in the show's 4th year. I can't believe it's been that long. It isn't really hard for me to remember agonizing over my earliest episodes. I was so worried about everything being production perfect on the first try, pre-production that is, that I was really striving so hard and burning up massive energy in the meantime. And to what end? Well, I can tell you that the shows at the beginning were not perfect. Not at all. And regardless of all the stress and striving, I still didn't hit that unreachable target I was focused on. Now, had I been clearer on my intention, instead of just focusing on a result, I may have had a more pleasant experience with this new undertaking. Now, it's not to say that it wasn't all worth it. It totally has been. But I think I could have had more ease in the experience had I been more focused on my intention and less focused on the end result. If you have not been listening to this show for long, let me tell you why I decided to start the podcast to begin with. I had just recovered from living in corporate hell. I had naively signed up to be a part of one of the most toxic work cultures I have, even still, come across. And after 8 years of truly nearly killing myself to try to fit their mold, I was fired. How's that? At the time, I was devastated, and I felt like my identity was totally stripped from me. Eventually, though, I pivoted. I started learning about organizational development. I worked very closely with a mentor and guide, and not only began working as a leadership coach, but eventually started my own small business. It's called the Leadership Coaching Group. I was scarred. I was weary, but I was on the other side. And I had eyes to see anyone who was in a similar situation. I wanted those people to feel seen, and I wanted them to feel hope. My intention was support, and that hasn't changed. Putting a name to that simple intention has changed how I respond, though. So I want to help you get clear on some of your intentions for this year. Clarity in this regard is paramount for living in uncertain times. It also is paramount for living with integrity as a leader. To sketch this idea out, I'll continue using the podcast as an example. I recently was relentlessly mocked by someone who should be in my innermost circle for doing this very podcast. He called it a worthless volunteer effort because, as far as his business illiterate mind was concerned, it was of no value. Now, since my intention for this work, simply offering support, is clear to me, I did not even need to respond to the comment. That jab was a bid for an argument that I simply did not respond to because there was nothing triggering about it for me. My intention is clear. Therefore, no argument, more podcast, intention embodied. I recently was reading something that sourced an ancient Vedic text, and it said, "You are what your deepest desire is. As your desire is, so is your intention. As your intention is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. As your deed is, so is your destiny." Now, this helped me kind of wrap my arms around the conversation of intention and gave me a roadmap of how to sort of back into it, honestly. And that's what I want to explore today. I'm very curious to hear what you think about this. Okay, that quote says, "Desire drives intention. Intention reflects your will determines your deed, and your deed is your destiny." So again, let's stick with the podcast. So the podcast might actually be a deed. So that's nearly the end state. It goes desire, intention, will, deed, destiny. Okay, so therefore, the predecessor to the deed was driven by a will. So my will was to be a guide for others like me. And the model that we're tracing says that this will was driven by an intention. So I've already told you my intention is very simple. It's to be in the space with others that are in pain. I want to be a source of support. And that intention is driven by a desire. Well, I've mentioned this before on the podcast. My desire is to be of use while on this earth. So desire leads to intention, which leads to will, which leads to deed, which becomes destiny. Why am I bringing this up to you? This is not the traditional business model, but here's why I like it. It uses language that reminds you how much is not in your control. The word destiny conjures images of vastness for me. It's not a simple end point of success. Actually, I think the word destiny even evokes thoughts of a complex journey, and that seems more appropriate. Setting our expectations at that level is much more satisfying than striving for a certain salary, job title, house, fill in the blank. So as you start off this new year, knowing that you are in uncertain times, I want to encourage you to set an intention for yourself. Again, I want you to think direction, not destination. Let the small daily actions in your life show what your desire is. Or if you prefer this term, let your daily actions show what your why is. How you show up today might seem like a small step, but truly, it's an enormous display of presence and intention. Okay, leaders, that is all for today. Welcome to the new year.
Hey guys, if you're getting anything out of this show, please head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. I read every single one, and honestly, your feedback is single-handedly what keeps this show going. So go to iTunes and let us know you're listening. Thank you so much for being a part of our community.